Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, wa ba'd. So we continue with our monthly lesson, this monthly class that we do for the families, series that we have entitled Our Family Life. Points of benefit for the stability of the family. This is the third session. This is in actuality a makeup lesson, as some of the sisters, they were confused. Some of the brothers perhaps as well. Allahu A'lam. When the message went out, it was the original message that we had sent out. However, we only changed the time from after Maghrib to after Isha. And some of them were confused by way of the i'lan mentioning that it is the last Friday out of each month. However, this, as we mentioned, is a makeup lesson from last month, as we didn't hold the class last month. And this is why it is on this night. At any rate, we're going to pick up, as we were mentioning, some points of benefit, some waqafat, some points in regards to how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam operated inside of his home, how he dealt with his family, little ta'amulat and interactions and things that he would do that would be indicative of the love that he had for his family and the dealings that he had with them, affairs that, if we contemplate and reflect upon them, then they would contribute.
You need to unlock your device to do this.
They would contribute to the stability of the home. We are at al-waqfa al-hadi ashra, or the 11th waqfa, the 11th point. And this is tina'uhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa madhuhu li ahli with har muhabbatihi, is his commendation, how he would speak well about his wives. He would praise them, he would commend them, and he would openly display his love for them. He would not conceal anything from that. He would not conceal the love that he had for his wives. It was something that is ma'loom. It was known. It was known. Now, he would often speak well about them. He would often speak well about them, to the point that it was known even amongst other wives. It was known even amongst other wives. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she would comment upon how the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would speak well about Khadija. He would praise Khadija, to the point that Aisha, she would become jealous, with that natural jealousy that a woman would have. So, in terms of his love that he had for his family, and speaking well about them, and praising them and commending them for their good characteristics and qualities, this is something that he would do, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. كان من كريم تعامله صلى الله عليه وسلم مع أزواجه رضي الله عنهن أحيانا الثناء عليهن. It was from his noble manners of association with his wives that he would at times, not something that he would constantly do, he would constantly speak about his wife, rather at times, أحيانا, he would praise them. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم عن عائشة رضي الله عنها فضل عائشة على النساء كفضل الثريد على سائر الطعام. That the virtue of Aisha رضي الله عنها over other women, the virtue of Aisha over the other women, is that, or similar to that of al-tharid over other dishes. The fadl of Aisha over other women is like the virtue of al-tharid over other dishes. Some of the ulama, from them Imam al-Zahabi alayhi rahmatullah, inside of Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, mentioned that the generality of the wording of this hadith would denote hatta Khadija, that even Khadija, that Aisha was superior even to Khadija. And this was due to her ilm, the knowledge of the religion and fiqh that she had acquired, which Khadija radiallahu anha had not had the chance and opportunity to acquire, as she died while the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam was still in Mecca. Now, so some other ulama, they say this, that even over Khadija, Aisha, she had virtue, based upon the generality of the wording of this hadith, that the virtue of Aisha over all women is like that of a tharid over other foods. And a tharid was a dish which was served by the Arab that was considered to be a superior dish. وَلَمَا سُئِلَ صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أحب الناس إليه, whenever he was asked about the most beloved of the people to him, he would say Aisha. He would say Aisha. قِيلَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ, and it was said thereafter, well, who from amongst the men? قال, he said, أبوها, her father, meaning as-Siddiq, Abu Bakr رضي الله عنه. كما أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يعلن حبه لزوجاته ولا يخفيه. Likewise, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would proclaim openly the love that he had for his wives, and he would not hide that. He would not hide that. كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم عن خديجة, as he said concerning Khadija, إني قد رزقت حبها. He would say concerning Khadija, and this narration is reported by Imam Muslim and other than him from the hadith of Aisha, that he would say, indeed, I have been provided with. Ruziqatu, I have been given as a rizq from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, love for Khadija. Love for Khadija. Now, ومن هديه صلى الله عليه وسلم في إظهار محبته لأزواجه أنه كان يقبلهن ولو كان صائما. And from the manners in which he would display love for his wives, he would display it openly, is that he would kiss them. He would kiss them even if he was fasting. He would kiss his wives. So it was not an affair of yani jafat, like someone is just walking around the home without showing emotion and affection towards their spouse. Rather, he would display affection, he would display love, and he would kiss his wives. بل إنه صلى الله عليه وسلم من عنايته كان يعرف حتى مشاعر أهله. He said, rather, it was from his inayah that he had, his care and concern that he had for his family, is that he would even know the emotional moods. He would know the mood of his family. He would know what type of mood that she was in. And this is something that comes along with experience, comes along with being around your spouse for some time. You begin to know when she's happy. You begin to know when she's sad, when something is on her mind, when she's tired, when she's energetic, when she's playful. You begin to know these things concerning your spouse the more time that you are around her or around him. And this is a dalil ala qurbihi minhun. And this is an evidence of the closeness between the spouses. For yaqulu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Aisha, as he would say to Aisha, that inni la'alamu idha kunti anni radiyatan wa idha kunti anni ghadibatan, that I know when you are pleased with me and when you are angry with me. I know when you're pleased with me, and I know when you're angry with me. As for when you're pleased with me, whenever you are pleased with me, you say, "Wa Rabbi Muhammad." If you swear an oath, you say, "By the Lord of Muhammad." This is when you're happy with me. وَإِذَا كُنْتِ غَضْبَا, and when you are angry at me, قُلْتِ, you say, "La wa Rabbi Ibrahim." No, I swear by the Lord of Ibrahim. Something as subtle as this. This is very subtle. You think about it. It's something which is very subtle. It's very light. Nah? But the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam was able to understand from that this is the sign that his wife is angry with him. Nah? Meaning that you would not mention the name, or she would not mention the name of the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam. So think about something as subtle as this. How subtle that is. That she would swear an oath, and when she had to swear an oath wherein she was pleased with the Messenger of Allah, she would say his name. And if she was displeased with him, then she would say, "Nay, by the Lord of Ibrahim." Now, many other women today, how does your husband know when you're angry with him? Is it something subtle and light like this? Or is it aggressive and mean? Is it aggressive and mean? Some of the women, wallahu musta'an, their husband knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that she's angry because she starts yelling. Perhaps she boycotts him. She walks around the house not speaking to him. Perhaps she denies him some of his rights. Or some other affairs that are not even permissible. Aisha, when she was angry with her husband or upset with her husband, as it is natural that a wife at some times may be upset with the husband, and vice versa. It will be something very light, something very subtle. Now, and from the excellent mannerisms of the woman is that she does not boycott her husband. Hada laysa, for this is not from those things that she should do. فَتَتْرُكْهُ أَوْ تَحْجُرُهُ أَوْ تَبْتَعِدْ عَنْهُ, that she should abandon him, that she should boycott him inside of the home, or withdraw from him. The woman is not to do this. She is not to do this. فَمَعْنَا مَا قَالَتْ عَائِشَةَ حَتَّى قَالَ غَضَبِي مَا أَحْجُرُ إِلَّا إِسْمِكَ. So Aisha, she said in response that even in my anger, I don't abandon anything except your name. Meaning that I'm not going to boycott you. I'm not going to stop speaking to you. I'm not going to deny you your rights. I'm not going to do any of that. But if I'm upset, I may just leave off your name. That's it. Something very light. This is good manners from a wife. Excellent manners from a wife that the women should take as an example. As the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam is the example for the rijal, his wives are the examples for the women. How to conduct themselves, even in times of anger with their husbands. Because it's going to come a time where your husband gets under your skin. Or he does something that perhaps you're not pleased with. And vice versa. But we have to be mindful of how we conduct ourselves even in these times of anger. فعدم إحساس الزوجين بعضهم ببعض لا شك أن هذا من المؤثرات في حصول ما يسمى عند البعض بالجفاف العاطفي. So the spouses not being able to pick up on each other's moods and feelings. Now, this without doubt, the Shaykh he says, is from the effects of that which has been referred to by some as al-jafaf al-atifi, like a person is like emotionally dead. You're emotionally dead. Dry emotionally. You don't know, you're not able to perceive and pick up on another person's emotions because you have none yourself. You have none yourself. Now, this is the result of that. As we see the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam, due to the care and concern he had for his family, he was able to pick up on her moods. And no, even by something that small, he was able to know, okay, this is the sign right here that she's not feeling me today. Okay? And when you know that, then it's incumbent upon you to investigate, to see what's wrong, see if you can fix it, and rectify what is between you and your spouse. Because nobody wants to walk around the house like that. It's miserable. He said, بسبب اندعام التودد اللفظي والفعلي, and that jafaf al-atifi, that emotional deadness, it is the result of indi'am at-tawaddud, the absence of love and affection, and lafzi, that verbal display of love, you saying kind words, saying I love you, saying I care for you, and likewise al-fi'li, displays, action-based displays of that love. Right? It's the result of that. He says, فَيَبْدَأ الْفُتُورِ يَدُوبْ فِي الْأُسْرَةِ الْمُسْلِمَةِ. So as a result of that, a type of lackadaisicalness creeps into the family structure, the Muslim family. حتى أنه قد يؤدي في بعض الأحيان إلى الفراق, and it will, in some instances, lead to separation and divorce and the breakdown of the family unit. The remedy for any affair, it will come at the beginning of it. It will come at the beginning of it. Meaning you work to have a good foundation from the beginning, good communication from the beginning. Now, Work on awareness of each other's likes and dislikes. Work on these things from the very beginning. Naam, and this will serve to benefit you in the end. He says that وَعَدَمُ الْمُبَالَى بِهِ لَا شَكَ أَنَّهُ وَبَاء وَبَلَاء. And the lack of concern with that, the lack of concern for the other spouse's feelings and the likes, no doubt this is a waba. It is a disease, it is a bala. This is a calamity. فَتَرَى الْمَرْأَى لَا تُبَالِي بِزَوْجِهَا. So you find a woman such that she doesn't care what's going on with her husband. As long as she's straight, she can care less what's going on with him. Or the husband, likewise. As long as he has what he needs from her, he can care less about how she's feeling and the likes. He says, وَهَذَا مِنْ سُوءِ الْعُشْرَى. This is, no doubt, from evil companionship. It's from bad companionship and manners of association. He says, وَتُذْكَرْ هُنَا قَضِيَّةُ التَّوَقُّعَاتِ بَيْنَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ كَذَلِكَ. He says, and likewise, we're going to mention here this issue of expectations. Expectations between spouses. He says, أَنَّ الْبَعْض يَقُولُ إِنِّي أَتَخَاصَمُ مَعَ زَوْجَتِي فِي مَسَائِلْ أَقُولُ لَهَا تَوَقَّعْتُ. He said that some of the people, they say that I dispute with my wife regarding certain things, and I say to her that I expected from you that you would do such and such, but you didn't do it. An expectation, right? That you were to do such and such for me, but you didn't do it. And the wife likewise says that I expected you to do such and such, but you didn't do it. These expectations. And these are not expectations that have been expressed and voiced at some point. It's an expectation for you to read her mind and know what she wants you to do. Or for her to read your mind and know what you want her to do. He says, فَالْإِفْصَاحِ بِالْحَاجَةِ بِأَيْ شَيْءٍ أَوْلَى. He said that which is best is that a person is clear regarding their needs. They're clear regarding their needs. This is what I need from you. I need you to do this for me. Right? You're clear. Have ifsah. You express that in a clear manner. He says, this is better than al-mu'ataba ala tawaqqu'at wa talabat lam tufkar. It is better than calling one to account and punishing a person for tawaqqu'at, for expectations, mutalabat lam tufkar, and these demands that have never been mentioned. Having expectations and demands from a person which have never been mentioned. He says because this would be a taklif bima la yustata', making a person responsible for something which they're not able to do. They're not able to go into your heart and know what you want and expect and need. Express yourself with good words, with reasonable expectations. Naam. And it is from al-muhasaba ala shay huwa fi alam al-ghayb, and calling a person to account for something that is from the unseen. He says, and it is impossible for a person to know the inner workings of a person's soul illa an tariq al-ifsah anha, except if the person were to express them clearly. Now, al-waqfa al-thaniya ashar. The 12th waqfa, the 12th point is muwasatuhu sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa musanadatuhu li ahli, is how he would console his wife and he would be supportive of his wife. He mentions under this point, kana sallallahu alaihi wasallam yusawi zawjatahu idha bakin wa yataraffaq bihin, that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would console his wives when they were crying, and he would be kind to them, as has come with an-Nasa'i with a good chain of narration. This qissa latifa, this beautiful story that contains durus, it contains lessons and it contains benefits. So let us contemplate and reflect upon some of these lessons and benefits in this qissa. In it, it is mentioned that Safiya radiallahu anha, on one occasion, she was traveling with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and her camel that she was riding upon was a very slow moving camel. And so the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned around to check on her, and he found her weeping. And she said, "Hamaltani ala ba'in bati fatakhat." So she said that you made me to ride upon a slow ba'ir, a slow camel. As a result, I'm lagging behind in the journey. And she was upset by this. She was distraught. You never know what may upset a woman on certain occasions. What may make her emotional. And so the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, what did he do? He didn't do what some men would do. Some men would be, you know, lucky I even gave you something to ride in the first place. What you crying for? The Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, he went to her and he consoled her. And yamsa biyadayhi aynayha, he began wiping her tears away. He himself began wiping her tears away. So the care of a husband for his wife. He was the one who wiped her tears away, the husband. And so he said, and he was trying to quiet her down. فَأَبَتْ إِلَّا الْبُكَاء, but she continued crying. The Shaykh, he mentions فَأَبَتْ إِلَّا الْبُكَاء, that she refused to do anything other than cry. Meaning she would not be quieted down. She kept weeping, in spite of her husband wiping her tears, holding her, consoling her, and the likes. أَيَصَرَّتْ عَلَى الْبُكَاء رَغَمْ مُسَاوَتَهُ, in spite of his musawah, in spite of his consoling her and his kindness towards her. So that began to affect him, as he is still human at the end of the day. So that began to affect him. He's trying to console her, and she's not allowing herself to be consoled. He's wiping her tears away, and she's still upset. So he got upset, and he left from her. And so Safiya, upon seeing that she had upset her husband by her refusal to calm down and her refusal to be consoled, she went to Aisha radiallahu anha. She went to Aisha. وَقَالَتْ يَا Aisha. And she said, "Oh Aisha, يَوْمِي هَذَا لَكِ. This day of mine is for you. You can have it." Why did she do this? Because she knew that what? Aisha was the most beloved of the people to him. She knew that Aisha was the most beloved of the people to him. A wife knowing her husband. Okay? And so she went to Aisha and said, "This day of mine is for you." Meaning you can have this day of mine with the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, and anti aradaytihi anni, if you are pleased with that from me. And so Aisha, she put on her khimar, she put on Safiya's khimar, and she prepared herself for the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, putting upon herself some sweet-smelling perfume, and she came to him with something that contained water. And when the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam smelled the scent, she came and she sat at the head of the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, and he said to her, "Malaki, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Meaning that this is not your night. Meaning that it is not your night. Aisha said, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. She said, that is the fadl of Allah. Allah gives it to whomever He wills. And as a result, the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam came to know of the discussion between Aisha and Safiya, and how Safiya had withdrew from that night and gave that night to Aisha radiallahu anhuma. And so the Prophet alayhi wasallam, as a result of that, he became pleased with Safiya. He became pleased with Safiya, realizing the value of sacrifice. When a person makes a sacrifice for your pleasure, you should be pleased with them. You should be thankful. You should be grateful. A person makes a sacrifice to please you. You should be grateful. Moreover, he mentions from his rifqa, mutalatufihi bi Safiya, how he had kindness and gentleness for Safiya. Arada sallallahu alayhi wa sallam an yutayyib khatiraha kadhalik. He wanted to make Safiya feel better. He still wanted to make Safiya feel better after all of this. Right? He still wanted to console Safiya and make her feel better. Mind you, at the beginning of the qissa, what happened? Safiya was upon a slow-moving camel. So he wanted to make Safiya feel better. So he went to Zainab. Radiallahu anha. وَقَالَ لَهَا إِنَّ صَفِيَّةَ قَدْ أَعْيَا بِهَا بَعِيرَهَا. He said that Safiya, her camel that she had, it's not acting right for her. This camel that she had, it's not acting right for her. فَمَا عَلَيْكِ أَن تُعْطِيَهَا بَعِيرَكَ. So, can you give her your camel? Can you give Safiya your camel? Zainab said, أَتَعْمَلُ إِلَى بَعِيرِ فَتُعْطِيَهُ لِيَهُدِيَّ. Now, are you going to take my camel from me and give it to a Jew? Safiya was Jewish by lineage, not by religion. So, upon hearing this, or the Shaykh mentioned, this is a dalil for the ghayra of the women, the jealousy of the women. Even the best of the women had this ghayra, this jealousy. Now, best of the women. May Allah be pleased with them. He says, and so the Prophet ﷺ abandoned her. He boycotted her for a period of 3 months. Ta'deeban laha, as a means of discipline. As a means of discipline for her. For her statement. And he did not approach her house to the point that Zainab, she began to feel herself to be abandoned. And she broke her bed down and she retired to the back portion of her house. And she began to despair that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would come to her again. She began to despair that he would come to her again. Discipline. Because certain things, things which oppose the Sharia, which oppose the legislation of Allah Ta'ala, those things, they have to be addressed. They have to be addressed. And so he didn't just let that slide. Rather, he showed his displeasure. He disciplined her. Nah. And so, until he said, on one occasion, she heard a sound, a faint sound, which was the sound of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ entering the house. And he ﷺ prepared the bed and prepared his spot in the bed. And this was an indication that the mudda of the ta'deeb, that time frame of the ta'deeb, of the discipline of her had ended. So Zainab said, Ya Rasulullah, jariyati fulanatun, that this slave girl of mine, her menstrual cycle has been completed, and today, you can have her. Today, you can have her. This is from the shidda of her farh, her happiness that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had come back to her. It's a different class of people. It's a different class of people we're talking about here. Now, amazing affairs that you see here. He says, طريقة معاملته صلى الله عليه وسلم وتأديبه لزوجته زينب. He said the manner of dealing and his discipline for his wife Zainab, فيما سبق, and that which is preceded, it likewise still has within it kindness and gentleness and love, while at the same time anger and being upset for the sake of Allah, and upset at that which is a mukhalafa of the Sharia, not something which is a simple error or mistake a person made, but something which opposes the legislation of Allah Ta'ala. This he will not let slide. Now, And this, he says, in it is a lufta, a point of benefit that al-istimrar fil jafa min al-zawja wa ghadabiha la yasih abada. That a constant type of jafa and rigidness from a wife, constant dryness from a wife, is something which is never correct. It is never correct, and it is something which has to be addressed at times. Al-Waqfa al-Thalitha Ashra, the 13th Waqfa, is how he would joke and play with his wives. How he would joke and have a sense of humor with his wives. From the excellent manner of tawaddud and love that he would display and kindness that he would display is that he would joke with his wives. As has come from Aisha radiallahu anha, that she said, Za'aratna Saudah, that Sauda visited us on one occasion. So the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam sat between me and Sauda, and one of his feet was leaning on me and the other foot was leaning on Sauda. And in another narration she says, Ataytu li Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam bi khaziratin tabakhtuha. And one narration she mentions that I came to the Messenger of Allah with a plate of food that I had prepared, a plate of soup that I had prepared. And I said to Sauda, Kuli, eat from it, have some. فَأَبَتْ Sauda. Sauda, she refused to eat it. She didn't want any. And so Aisha said to her, لَا تَأْكُلِي أَوْ لَأُلَطِّخَنَّ وَجْهَكَ. Either you're going to eat from this or I'm going to smear it all over your face. فَأَبَتْ. So Sauda, she still refused to eat from it. فَوَضَعَتْ عَائِشَةَ يَدَهَا فِي الْخَزِيرَةِ. Aisha, she dipped her hand into the plate of soup and she smeared it all over the face of Sauda. فَضَحِكَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So the Messenger of Allah, he laughed at this. He laughed. And so he then held Aisha down and let Sauda up so that she can take her right back from Aisha. And while he was holding Aisha down, he said, smear it in her face. Rubbing in Sauda in Aisha's face. So Sauda, she smeared the soup in Aisha's face just as Aisha had done. And Aisha said, فَضَحِكَ نَبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَيْضًا. So the Prophet, while Sauda was rubbing the soup all in Aisha's face, he was laughing. He was laughing. And Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anha passed by, فَنَادَى يَا Abdullah, Ya Abdullah. Umar, he had passed by and he said, Oh Abdullah. فَقَالَ لَهُمَا, meaning they could hear Umar's voice approaching. And so the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, he said, قُمَا فَاغْسِلَا وُجُوهَكُمَا. Stand up and wash your faces off. Stand up and wash your faces off. The ulama, they mentioned that this was before this incident took place, before the verses for veiling came down and the veiling became obligatory. The Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam told them to wipe the soup off of their faces and tighten themselves up a bit. Now, and so he says, إِنَّ هَذَا النَّوْعِ مِنْ حُسْنِ الْمُزَاءِ وَمُدَاعَبَةِ. That this is a type of joking which the Messenger of Allah would do with his family, a type of humor that he had with them. You want to have some fun with your wife. You want to be able to laugh and joke and to find humor in things and have a good time. Now, because in doing so lies a taqarrub, bringing the people together, bringing the hearts together and closeness. And it is an excellent manner of association between the spouses. And likewise, we see from this tazawur, that the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they would visit each other. In spite of whatever there was between them, they were family. They were family. They would visit each other's homes. At times, all of them would meet together at the wife whose house it was, whose night it was, and they would have dinner there. And then the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, he would walk the wives home and then return back to the wife whose night it was. All of this served to bring about ulfa, and association and love and closeness between him and his wives. Al-Waqfa Arabi Ashra, the 14th point. And we'll stop here after the 14th point, Bismillah ta'ala. Is his inaya, which he had, and his diligence, which he had, ala tatayyub wa tazayyun, for oiling himself and beautifying himself. He would oil himself. He would put upon himself nice smelling oils, and he would beautify himself for his wives. So it was from his guidance, alayhi salam, that he would love tib. He loved oils. He loved oils. And he would always and frequently put upon himself oil. Not just when going to Jumu'ah. Rather, all the time he would wear oils. He loved oils. As the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salam, he said, that made beloved to me from your dunya is women and oils. Or tib, actually. He just used the word tib. And the Shaykh bin Baz, he mentioned that tib here means everything that smells good. Whether it is bukhur, he loved bukhur, and incense and good smells inside of the home, and likewise sweet smelling and good smelling perfumes. This is what he loved, alayhi salam. This is from his guidance. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that كأني أنظر إلى وبيس المسك في مفرق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو محرم. That it is as if I can see the glistening of the oils of the misk between the part in his hair. He would put the misk in his hair to the point that the part that would be in his hair, you could see it. You could see the glistening of the oils in the part within his head while he was a muhrim, while he was in a state of ihram, meaning for Hajj and Umrah. وكان من حرصه صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه يمحل زوجه حتى يتجهز له. And likewise from his guidance and his diligence that he alayhi salam, he would whenever he was traveling, he would delay the return. He's supposed to be back on a certain day. He would make it to be a little bit later than expected in order that the wife can prepare herself. He gives her time to prepare herself for his return. وَلَا يَرَى مِنْهَا شَيْئًا, in order that he would not see from her something which was displeasurable. وَإِذَا كَانَ فِي سَفَرٍ تَأَخَّرَ قَلِيلًا, whenever he was traveling, he would delay the return slightly. As Jabir radiallahu anhu, he said that كُنَّا مَعَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فِي سَفَرٍ, we were with the Messenger of Allah in a journey. فَلَمَّا رَجَعْنَا ذَهَبْنَا لِنَدْخُلُ, and whenever we returned, we would be prepared to enter our homes. فَقَالَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَمْهِلُوا, delay it just a tad bit. Delay entering the home just a tad bit. حَتَّى نَدْخُلَ لَيْلًا, in order that we can go in when it gets dark. And this was for the purpose of what? Letting them prepare themselves. So they may hear, okay, the men have come back from battle, or whatever the case may be. So they start getting themselves ready. Give them some time to get themselves ready. Give them some time. Don't pop up on them unexpectedly. In these days and times, we have these cell phones, right? We have phones so we can call and let them know, hey, I'll be home in an hour. I'll be home in 30 minutes, or whatever the case may be. So that they are not caught off guard by our return. Now, at that time, they didn't have that. Right? So give them time in order that they may prepare themselves for your entrance. Now, he says, Hatta tamtashitu, Hatta tamtashita ash-shu'ath, in order that the shu'ath can, the disheveled one can comb her hair. The one whose hair is not together, she can tighten up. Now, and in order that those areas that need to be, the hair needs to be removed from those areas, they can be shaved. He said, so this statement of his, fihi ilmahun latifun ila ahamiyah inayat al-mar'a bi nafsiha. In this lies a subtle indication of the importance of the woman having, giving care and consideration to herself and her hygiene and her beautification of herself and beautifying herself for her husband. كما جاء في الحديث أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل على عائشة, as it comes in the hadith that the Masjid entered upon Aisha. فرأى في يديها, so he saw upon her hands some bracelets. He saw upon her wrists some bracelets made of silver. And he said, ما هذا, what is this, O Aisha? قالت, she said, صنعتهن, that I made them, أتزين لك يا رسول الله, so I can beautify myself for you, O Messenger of Allah. Good example. I made them to beautify myself for you, O Messenger of Allah. فقال, and so he said to her, have you paid the zakat upon this jewelry? Have you paid the zakat upon this jewelry that you own? قالت لا. She said, no, I have not. And so he said, alayhi salam, it will be, meaning you paying your zakat upon this jewelry, it will be a protection for you from the fire. So this, what he focused upon was the legislated ruling regarding that jewelry, that the zakat must be paid upon that jewelry. But likewise, in that affair, we find the inayah and the care and consideration of the woman in terms of beautifying herself for her mate, making sure that that he looks at something which is appealing to him. And likewise, the husband, he should do the same. Now, he said that just as he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ذكر لنا أمورا, he would mention affairs تخص الرجل وأمورا تخص المرأة, certain affairs that are specific to the man, certain affairs that are specific to the woman. Meaning in terms of beautification, there are certain things that are specific to the man, certain things for the woman. And from them there are the sunan of al-fitra, observation of the acts of fitra, removal of the hair of the armpits and the private area and so on and so forth. And those other acts of fitra, trimming the mustache and the like. This is all from beautification. It's all from beautification. The person should take care of these affairs, especially if you intend to come to your spouse. Make sure these affairs are in order. Make sure they are in order. And I could mention some things, certain complaints that some of the sisters have had about some of the rijal. If we weren't on Spreaker, I'd mention it to the brothers. Right? Some of the complaints that, some sisters, they sing some things like, they get married to their brother and, wedding night. It's a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder, So he says, كما جاء and Ibn Abbas, as has come from Ibn Abbas, that he said, إني أحب أن أتزين المرأة, I love to beautify myself for my wife, just as I love that she should beautify herself for me. I love that I should beautify myself for my wife, just as I love she should beautify herself for me. Because Allah Ta'ala said, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. They have rights. They have rights similar to those that are due upon them within reason. Now, so there are certain affairs, as we mentioned, that are specific to the men. The men, they should be diligent upon wearing nice smelling oils, putting upon themselves nice clothing. The affair of a ring. This is from the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam. He would wear a khatam upon his khinsir, upon his pinky finger. He would wear a ring. Now, this is from the beautification, from the permissible affairs of beautification of the man. Likewise, if a man is a elder man, he hennas his beard if he has gray, as it is not permissible for the one who does not have gray. The man who does not have gray, it is not permissible for him to henna his hair. Okay, but if he does have gray, he puts henna in his hair. The woman, if she has no gray, she can still henna herself. She can henna her hair and the likes of this. Okay, likewise, striving to actualize dexterity, working out and making sure that the man is in shape. The woman, there are certain things that are specific to her. Perhaps she keeps up with her hair. Make sure her hair looks nice. It is permissible for her to wear makeup in an instance where only her husband will see that. Wearing perfume, putting upon herself jewelry and the likes, putting upon something nice in order for her husband to see that. These are from the fares that are specific to the nisa. He says some of the azwaj complain. Some of the husbands complain and they say that my wife, he said that after I married her, she hasn't beautified herself since. She hasn't beautified herself since. And she has left off zina. She has left off beautification. وَكَأَنَّهَا كَانَتْ بِانْتِظَارِ يَوْمِ زِوَاجِهَا فَقَط. It's as if she was only waiting for the day to get married. She beautified herself that day, and I haven't seen any of that since. He says, and so once Allah Ta'ala facilitated marriage for her, تَرَكَتْ مَا كَانَ يُحَبِّبُهَا لِزَوْجِهَا. Once Allah facilitated marriage for her, what does she do? She left off those things that made her beloved to her husband. Those things that made him fall for you, things that got him into you, she left off those things. Nah? And those things that drew him and attracted him to her. حتى قال البعض إن أفضل ما كنت أرى في زوجتي ما تتزين لي في أول أيام الزواج. To the point that some of them say that the best days which I saw from my wife in terms of her beautification were those first days after we were married. After that, it was all downhill. He said that, نعم ولا شك أن هذا فيه نوع من التقصير. No doubt this is a type of a taqsir, a type of shortcoming. It's a type of shortcoming and falling short. فالمرأة على كل حال. So the women, and this is not just for the women, the men as well. The men as well. We should come correct when we come to our spouses. Right? We come correct when we come to our spouses, as Ibn Abbas said. Because they like to look at something nice too. They like to see us with a nice haircut, or they like to smell good oil. They don't want to smell the car. They don't want to smell, that you've been fixing transmissions and stuff like that. They want to smell something nice. There's no shout at my brothers Abdul Malik and Mubarak. No shout at y'all mechanic brothers. But they're not trying to smell that. They're not trying to smell that. Okay? They want to smell something nice. They want to look at something nice. They want to see that that it's important to you. That's important to you, and that you put effort into beautifying yourself for your wife. But here he's speaking about the women. He said that the woman in any state, he said, and in all times, and at any age that she may be. It's not that she does it when she was younger and then as she gets older, I'm not worried about it no more. Right? She should always be harisa, always be diligent. Always be diligent upon this. And that she should strive to safeguard her husband in his basar, in what he sees, what he looks at, such that he does not look at or see except that which he loves. And likewise striving to safeguard his nose, such that he doesn't smell anything except that which he loves. And she should always strive to be beloved to him, and always strive to be something which tickles his fancy, for lack of better words. Likewise, the husband pays attention to taking care of himself. He said, and without doubt, this isn't something which does not contain ghulu. Right? We don't go to extremes to the point. Going to extremes, and we mentioned to the brothers before, going to extremes, for example, and even grooming the beard. Going to extremes and grooming the beard. Yes, if you have hair, take care of it. Perhaps you put henna, perhaps you comb it out, or whatever the case may be. But some people go to extremes. I know some guys perm their beard. They perm their beard. They put all types of, juices and berries in their beard until it looks all kind of curly and wavy and so on and so forth, like they got a jerry curl in it. This stuff is actually from femininity. It is from femininity, right? And the ulama, they warn against this. But taking care of your hair, if you have hair, you honor it, right? You brush your hair, you comb your hair, whatever the case may be. You comb your beard out, and you don't go to extremes in beautifying yourself. Don't go to extremes in beautifying yourself. And another extreme on the other end is perhaps some men, they shave their beard off, and they call this beautification. It's uglification. It's not beautification. Removing your beard altogether. It's not from beautification at all. He says, فَإِنَّ التَّوَسُّعَ فِي هَذَا الْبَابِ لَيْسَ مِنْ صِفَاتِ الرِّجَالِ. Going to extremes, going too far in this regard, is not from the sifat of men or from their habits. He says, therefore, if we contemplate upon how the wives of the Prophet ﷺ dealt with him, how they would deal with him, and look at this, and how they had care for him, they would care for him. فَإِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنْ حَدِّ عَائِشَةَ أَنَّهَا هِيَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ تُطَيِّبَ النَّبِيِّ, that she used to put oil on him. Aisha, she would oil the Prophet ﷺ with ever scents and oils that both he and she liked. She would put it up on him. Right? She's inside the house, okay? She may, put some oil up on her husband. Perhaps the woman, she goes to, and it goes both ways. Perhaps, she takes care of him, he takes care of her. Perhaps the husband, he may wash his wife's hair. Help her out. He's over the sink with her, washing her hair out for her. He helps her out in certain regards. Perhaps he may, okay, you may do your toes for you, take care of your toes for you. Right? And likewise, the wife, she takes care of her husband. She puts the oil up on him. She puts the henna in his beard. She perhaps shaves his head or does other things that he likes to take care of her husband. Now, so Aisha, she would put the oil up on the Prophet ﷺ. Qala Urwa, he said, Bi Aisha tayyabti Rasulullah. He asked Aisha, with what thing would you oil the Messenger of Allah ﷺ? She said, Bi atyab tayyib, with the best of scents. I would put the best of scents upon him. And so he said that she would take control of this affair and put oil upon the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And this is something which many of the women think, this is nothing. Why would I do something like that? It has no effect. Rather, he said, this is incorrect. It has a tremendous effect. It brings closeness. It brings closeness between the spouses. It has an athar kabir wa amiq. It has a tremendous and a deep effect in bringing about love and affection. He says, because if the man sees from his wife أنها تعتني به, that she takes care of him in terms of his oiling him, perfuming him, and the likes, فلا شك أن في هذا الفعل وتقرب, he says, without doubt, in this action, there is a tremendous evidence of her love for him, that she has love for him. So let the spouses reflect upon these points of benefit. Likewise, I mentioned it goes both ways. The husband, he can take care of his wife as well in certain affairs, washing her hair or whatever, affairs that may be between the spouses that will bring about that closeness and that love and that affection between the two parties. So let us all be mindful of these things and take these things into consideration and strive to implement them within our households, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and Allah ta'ala knows best. We'll stop here and we'll pick up later in the month or at the beginning of next month, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, from some more points. Hayakum Allah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.